We're back with another episode. We're back with another episode of Britt. And how are you guys doing? I hope you guys are gonna have an amazing week, and you had an amazing last week. It is Monday, and I had a great week and weekend. This weekend my cousins came over. They are insane. If you follow me on Instagram @_Instagram, you probably saw on my IG story. So child, they came over here the next morning. I woke up with a crick in my neck, child. I was tight, cause like, that's why if y'all see me kind of like moving a little stiff, my neck hurt. First of all, is crick even a word? Like, I feel like that's a term that black people made up, crick in the neck. Like, but I got a crick in my neck, dead serious. Like, my neck is stiff. Like, ah! Yo, I'm sorry for screaming in y'all ears. But, yeah, child, I woke up with a crick in my neck. I just somebody karate chopped me in my neck or something, child. I can't. Like, who gets cricks in their neck anymore? Like, I feel like that's so out of date. I was so mad when I found out that I got a crick in my neck. But yeah, we had fun. We was chilling, listening to music, doing what we do, eating. I cooked some din-din. I cooked some stuffed salmon, mashed potatoes, and broccoli. The food was really good. It came out good. I was so happy. I pre-seasoned the salmon 2 or 3 days in advance. I think 2 days. 2 days in advance before I cooked it. So I think that really helped. And they love the stuffing because a lot of people, if you ever made like stuffed salmon, like the stuff you stuff inside the salmon, you could use it as like dip for chips. So I made what I stuffed in the salmon, I had a lot of salmon stuffing left over. So I used it for, you know, dip. And they was obsessed with the dip. I had to make another batch, so that was cool. Like, I had fun this weekend. It was very nostalgic. Whenever I hang out with my cousins, it's very nostalgic because I think that every time we hang out, we really just want to be like 10, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17 again when we was young, making up dances, having fun, just being kids. Like, we like to, like, I feel like that's why we kind of like have so much fun. Like, I feel like we want to be like our childhood selves again because that's how we grew up, just being kids. But we don't be kids, we be like adult kids, like in this weird way, you know, and we always be reminiscing, so it would be cool or whatever. And yeah, I was happy because I usually go to the Bronx. They rarely come to Brooklyn, so it's like mad weird when they come to Brooklyn or whatever, or when I used to live in Queens when they come to Queens. So yeah, that was my week or whatever. And then R.I.P. to DMX. Oh my gosh, I really didn't think he would pass. Like, I really had faith in him. And I think just with social media in general, like, you really don't know the severity of things. Like, I feel like if they don't tell me that the person passed immediately, I think they gonna live. You know, just like the other day with Tiger Woods, he had gotten to that big car accident. They said that they had to take him out in the that thing that opens the jaws of life, I think. And I'm in the car. I was like praying for him when I heard about it on the radio, and then I was just like, he gonna be all right though, because I feel like, granted, when Kobe passed, we didn't really know what was going on. I remember that, and I kind of threw me off that he had passed, but I don't know. I just didn't think DMX was gonna die. They just said he was in a coma. And they were saying his brain was deteriorating, but I was just like, I wasn't taking it seriously at all. Like, I was taking it serious, but I really thought he was gonna push through. So when I found out he actually passed away, I was like, I was in disbelief. Like, I was like really shocked. At least for me, I don't know how everybody else took it, but I was just like, oh shoot, like DMX really passed away. Like, that's crazy. DMX, I feel like with DMX, I was just like, I don't know, like, was I like a big fan? I liked all his songs that were popping, I'll put it that way. And one thing I like about him, you know, he was into with the Lord, honey. He loved praying. I liked his voice. Like, I feel like he's somebody I couldn't be around all the time. Or like, I mean, I'll be friends with anybody as long as you respect me, as long as I bang with you, as long as we mad cool. But I feel like he would be that friend that just got that weird, loud, raspy voice. He always barking, and it's just crazy. And funny story too, before all this happened, I had watched his interview on Drink Champs. I definitely watched, that was how I want to watch what DMX gotta say. And he just talked about his love for dogs, and he was just dope. Like, I really enjoyed the interview. And I rarely, well, no, I wouldn't say I rarely enjoy people's interview, but I was just like, all right, he cool. And that's the thing with me, I have very poor judgment of people in drugs, apparently, because I didn't know, and we don't know if he was still battling with drug addiction, because I feel like DMX, he naturally talks like rah rah, like I feel like that's just his natural person. If I always see you act one way, that's who I think you are. Like, I'm not gonna think that you are any different from that if I never seen you act different from that. Does that make sense? So I thought he was just always being himself. I didn't know he was still battling with drugs. I thought he was just being DMX. Like, I thought that's just how he acts. Like, I literally thought that's how he acts. So yeah, that completely threw me off this week. Yeah, he just, you know, and everybody keeps saying, oh, he's battling with demons, he's battling with demons. First of all, yeah, he is battling with demons, but like, I don't know, like, do y'all bring this up? Like, I remember on the Verses, he brought up how somebody touched him, his aunt or something. I don't know, don't quote me. And like, no, everybody just kind of like threw that under the rug. Like, he definitely just talked about all the things that he has been through and everything he has went through. And it's just so, for me too, like, people like that, like, he was so in tune with God but still battling drug addiction. Like, people like that make me really believe there gotta be a higher being, because like, how even when you at your worst, you just know it's some, like, I feel like people who hide, they just know more than we might know. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know how back in the day, like, people dead used to do drugs and opioids and what's that other drug called? Wakasa. Bitch, don't quote me, don't freaking quote my ass. But yeah, people literally, I learned this in, which class was it? Geology? Geology. I think it's called geology or whatever. I learned in a class where, like, Indian people, they would like literally, I think some of them was doing drugs to get high, bitch. But a lot of them would do drugs to get closer to God or closer to whomever they believed in. Like, they would legitimately do that. Like, they use drugs to get closer to God and to pray. I do think a few of them was doing it, you know, to get lit, period, because they like the way it made them feel. But they did use it to get closer to a higher being. I'm not saying that DMX did that. I don't know why, you know, DMX was battling with a lot of things, you know what I'm saying? So it's just crazy. It's just crazy, you know. The other thing with that too that I wanted to talk about is, like, especially with like men, and I'm not gonna just say just black men, I think all men in general across the board, all races, I feel like with DMX, I guess for black men, because I'm pretty sure black men may pay attention more to DMX than other races, I don't know, but you guys definitely need to go get help. Like, for real. Like, I was just thinking in my head too, like, yes, DMX is battling a lot of demons, but he probably never fought them head on. I'm not sure. I don't know if he ever went to a therapist. I don't know. But I'm pretty sure that a lot of times with men, they feel the need to always be strong. They can't cry. Like, they don't believe in therapy. Like, it's rare you'll find a guy, like, you'd be like, yo, you ever went to therapy? And like, they would rarely say that they went. So for me, somebody like DMX is a prime example of just, like, you know, not battling your issues head forth and head on. And a lot of men do that, and it worries me, you know. It worries me. It makes me think about, you know, how a lot of times with men, so how different they could be as a gender had they gone and get help for so many things that they're probably battling with. Because I feel like we're all battling with things, and I would think it's a very hard journey to not only deal with things without help, but to deal with things without help and not be able to show those emotions freely. You know what I'm saying? I don't know, but I hope that a lot of you guys kind of like cry on your own time and you know, you go through the motions on your own time when you need to. So yeah, I was just thinking about that. So if you a man, you watching this, you know, go get the help you need for any bad news, anything you're facing, anything you went through, any trauma, any demons you're battling with. Go get help. Like, do something. Like, make sure you got a support system. Make sure you at minimum. When I say minimum, I mean this, like, real tiny, real minuscule, talking to somebody about the things that hurt you, that upset you, you know, whether it's somebody in your family or friend circle or whatever. I would prefer professional help, but I'm just saying at minimum you should be talking to somebody about whatever you're dealing with. Or, you know, if you going in the shower and you crying, you know what I'm saying. But I would just imagine still, even that it's not even given what it's supposed to be given, you know what I'm saying. Like, you're not really like dealing with your emotions full force. So yeah, and you know, that is the perfect segue into our topic, because we're gonna be talking about therapy, finding a therapist, getting a therapist, being in therapy. I could definitely talk a lot about this topic. I'm going to be very transparent in this topic, and very honest too, because even when I was thinking about this topic or whatever the case may be, I was just like, I feel like we talk about therapy so much. Go get therapy, go get help, go do this, go do that, but we don't talk about like kind of like the cons of therapy, right? What it actually does for you that may not be the best, you know. At least for me, this is all opinion based, nothing is factual, but I'm just giving you what it is, you know. My experiences with bad therapists, you know, and stuff like that. And I don't want to call people out. Hey, look, it's my podcast. I be having to remind myself that, yo, I be sparing people. I was just talking about how, like, ever since I've been doing the podcast, especially like this year, and I would say towards the end of 2020, how I'll bring up a lot of stories and things that have happened, and I won't say the name, and I'm a small podcaster, and I was just thinking, like, I really be sparing motherfuckers where people spare my ass. Like, it be a lot of stuff that I'll be like, I'm not gonna say the name, I won't go into detail, I won't, like, bitch. But yeah, I'm gonna tell y'all about my crazy therapy journey and stuff like that, and I'm gonna go back or whatever the case would be, and just about like the pros and cons of having therapy. Like, we gonna talk today. Is not an explain your minds, because, you know, we just gonna jump into the topic. And let me start off by telling y'all my therapy counseling journey. So the first ever time I got therapy, I don't remember what age I was, but I was relatively young, and that was when my parents divorced. Yes, my mother put us in therapy because I guess she thought we wouldn't be able to handle it. And I wish I remember how old I was. Obviously, you know, stuff be trauma, bitch. I got so much stuff in my repressed memory. We could talk psychology. We could talk those terms, honey. But, yeah. So that was the first time I went to therapy. It was mad fun because we was young. So what she would do was, like, she would let us, like, play games and then try to, like, get us to say things or whatever about, you know, the divorce, I guess, and just our life and, like, the things we went through. But for me, and this is not to, you know, scare parents away, I'm going to tell you how the pros and cons. For me, I felt like I was just having fun in therapy. Like, I was playing games. I think I was talking, but I don't feel like it was, like, super productive. And then the other thing, I used to see her, like, talk to my mother after the therapy sessions. So for me, because I was such a private person, I was always private from a young age. I'm such a Scorpio. Like, from a very young age, I was very private. So because I would see her talk to my mother after, it made me not want to be vulnerable with her. Because I felt like whatever we would say, she would just bring it back to our mother. You get what I'm saying? So for me, I feel like unless you know your kids or whatever the case may be, for me, I didn't feel like the kid therapy was good for me because I already knew I was gonna have a wall up, because I didn't want her to go running back telling my mother certain things, you know, at that age, being young or whatever the case may be. So that was what that was like for me. But that was like my first experience in therapy, and it was cool. I had fun, and I do remember that it wasn't successful, and she kind of like ended our therapy early, like not early, but like she kind of like told my mother like, you know, I don't think that they're at the age yet with everybody, you know, but I think it was a little good, like that type of thing. Then my mother put us back in therapy again, and I'm not sure why, but it was like when we was a little older, and I was tight at the time. Like, this is when I was like a little bit older, like much older, where I could like comprehend like, what the fuck is this? And she put us back in. I don't know why she did. Maybe I don't know. Maybe because she felt like we was just like, we experienced so much. Like, we went through a divorce, and then like when my parents went through a divorce, we had to like move a lot or whatever the case may be. And just like, I guess she felt like that transition was a lot for us because it was a lot for her. So she put us in therapy, and child, I was a mess up in that therapy. You hear me? When I say a mess, I was rude as fuck. I just was not here for it. I was a little also upset because we used to have to go after school. I remember it was on Thursdays, and I already wasn't feeling school. Now after school, I gotta go to therapy. Like, I want to go to my house. I want to go to sleep. I want to go to bed. So I was mad, mean to the therapist. I remember she would be like, why do you feel like this? So I'd be like, because I just do. Like, I was really bad. Like, I was probably like, I don't remember how old I was. I can't remember these things, but I have recollection of it all. And I remember being at the therapy place. It was in Manhattan, and it was so many different sessions. Like, I remember it was a couple. They sound like a white couple. I'm just judging off the voice. I'm problematic. And in the therapy or whatever, we doing our therapy session, I hear somebody screaming like, you don't understand. I did everything for you in this relationship. Like, screaming. I'm like, this is traumatic. This is too traumatic for me. I cannot do this therapy thing. So from a young age, for me, therapy was, maybe some could say it was helpful because it taught me I would say it might have some correlation why I feel the need to go to therapy when things make me feel uneasy, because I feel like I was the type of person who was going to therapy before mental health was trendy, you know what I'm saying, and we'll get into that. But yeah, so that was my second time going to therapy. So my con with therapy at a young age is like, I feel like in a weird way we don't understand what's going on. Can it be scientifically proven that maybe, you know, it could help your kid know, like, look, when things go bad, go get help, go talk to somebody? Maybe, because I went back to therapy on my own as I got older, before this shit even became a thing we should do. So yeah, as a kid, for me, it wasn't helpful. I wasn't interested. I just wanted to be a kid. I didn't want to talk about my emotions. I didn't want to talk about my feelings. That was just me personally as a kid. You know what I'm saying? So I feel like the little family counseling thing, it was just not serving the girls for me. And then later in life, oh well, we can step back. I'm back to therapy in my senior year of college. It sounds like I'm crazy. Okay, the first ones I was not by choice. I didn't want to do that. This one was by choice. I had my senior year of college, like when I was about to go back home, actually. I was like, I need to speak to somebody. Like, I think I was just having a breakdown because of the finals, because I was graduating that year. I was going through such a big transition. So we only did one session. And the only reason why we did one session was because literally next week I was graduating. So maybe I was just like going through the motions. I don't know what was going on. But I was just having like a rough time, or whatever the case may be. And it was just really stressful, and like, I don't know, it just, and she was white. It looked like she was just like, look, little black sis, I can't help you. She was giving, you're black, I can't do this with this black woman. Especially in Buffalo, bitch, they racist as fuck. So that was like my second time. I don't really remember that. I remember just talking, like, I don't know, I was just going through it at the time. So The next time, this therapist I loved. This was when I was like 20, I want to say 3 or 4. And I was in therapy for mad long. To the point I wasn't even knowledgeable that I was in therapy for that long. I want to say 2 to 3 years or whatever the case may be. And this is before therapy got trendy. I just felt like I needed to go to a therapist. Like, it was just random. And this is so important. Let me tell you how this is important. Because my thing was, I already knew I wanted a black therapist. I wanted a woman. And that was it. So, back then, before getting therapy was this thing that people kept telling people to do. When I tell you I got a therapist in a day, one day, one phone call. Because this is before everybody was just like, go get a therapist, go get a psychiatrist, go get help, go get help. Like, I went online, found out if they took my health insurance, called 2 people. The first lady didn't answer her phone immediately. The second one did. She said, you could come in this day. What time is you available? Bitch, I was in therapy. Girl, when I had to get therapy recently, when I tell you the struggle to find a black therapist in the heart of New York City, bitch. Y'all know New York City is the melting pot. We have we have the biggest population in America. I don't want to make that up. We might, don't quote me, but like it's the biggest city. I know that for a fact. New York City is so big. It's just so much stuff here, and because it's so overcrowded, it's still hard to find certain things. I was emailing therapists, psychiatrists, anybody who was willing to help, you know, and I shouldn't have had to do that looking back, but I did. Maybe a lot of doctors don't help the person get therapists. Oh, I skipped the time when I got therapy, but that's another topic. All right, but anyway, I think that a lot of doctors don't help people get therapy after certain situations because they don't believe that the person is actually really gonna go through with therapy. Because I do remember a social worker like coming into my hospital bed and like, oh, you know, we want to get you into therapist ASAP. Like, I remember the social workers was coming into my my hospital room. So I guess, but I was just wanted to make sure my therapist was black and she was a female. So that's probably why I was kind of like giving them the side eye. But my OBGYN did recommend a counseling center to me. They had set it up for me, everything. They gave me the pamphlet and stuff like that. But by the time they gave me a counseling center, I had found one. They had put me off the wait list because of my situation. And so let's jump into that. So I found the therapist, a black woman therapist. They are, first of all, they have a website. I can't remember. I think it's called Black Therapy, Black Therapist. It's something. And you could go on Psychology Today too and find, you could definitely put the race and the age group and stuff like that and find a black therapist. It's just all about, do they take your health insurance? Do they, you know, do they have slots available for your schedule? You know what I'm saying? And that's what makes it so hard. So I just want to say too, if you in school right now and you going to school for psychology and your goal is to be a psychiatrist, especially psychiatrists too, we can talk about that because there's different ones. There's social workers, therapists, psychiatrists. It's like so many different spectrums of therapy and things like that. You know, some people like life coaches and you know, everybody does their own thing that they're into. So I found a therapy company and they got me a therapist. So the first thing, I started doing my Googles and I saw she was like a therapist for like child adolescents or whatever the case may be. And I'm like, it's like they trying to experiment on me because I'm going through grief. So we could talk about grief counseling too. But anyway, I get with the girl that they linked me up with. She was young. So now I'm like, I don't really want a young black therapist. I wanted an older woman. And I'll speak on that. First I was like, I kind of didn't want a young black girl because, you know, I just wanted somebody who's older, more mature. I feel like older people have been through things, and I don't want y'all to if you know, if this video ever circulates the world, to feel like you should get an older woman therapist. That's not fair. You know, everybody is different. You get what I'm saying? So I was kind of opposed to it at first, but I was like, you know what, let me give her a chance because I feel like people do that to me or used to do that to my friends, because they're young. They feel like they can't take on these certain roles and do these certain positions and do certain things. They have to build their bravado. I'm probably saying the wrong word. They have to like build up their resume, and it's like, if you don't give me a chance, I'm gonna build my resume. So I was just like, all right, I'll give the young girl a chance. Now I'm gonna tell you my story, but like I said, I do think that you should still give younger therapists a chance. My situation is just unique to me. I do believe that a young black woman, man, whatever, can definitely give you the help that you need. My situation was unique to me, because I want to make that clear. So boom, they put me in therapy with this girl. Already, when you Google my name, and I think this is why I'm struggling to get a job, but when you Google my name, you're going to see that I have a podcast and stuff like that. You're going to see Britt Says, you're going to see Brittany Lingard. I'm open to saying my full name. It is what it is, because even on my podcast, it says my full name. Cool. So when we did our first therapy session, she told me to listen to her podcast, and I was just like, that's giving me red flag. But her podcast was about therapy, and she told me to listen to the episode about grief. So I'm like, not really that pressed, not really that upset about it, but still a little weird, because I've been through therapy and nobody ever recommended me to listen to a podcast episode. I'm just saying, you get what I'm saying? Like, I personally wouldn't do that. Like, you know, if I was a therapist, be like, you know, you should listen to the Britt Says podcast episode about whatever. You know, I personally just wouldn't do that. I thought it was a red flag, but I was like, whatever, I'm gonna let her rock. Cool. Also, you know, they do like the questions on the first, your first session. They ask you like a lot of questions to see, like, basically like, what are you in therapy for? What is like your journey, your track journey? And I remember asking like, do you want me to incorporate God and religion into it? And I was just like, I never had a therapist ask me that question. My job in therapy like 85,000 times, bitch. I even skipped a time when I was in therapy. I never had a therapist ask me that. She was like, we like to ask, do you think that your race or religion or culture correlates with therapy? Like, she was just asking questions that it was just giving me like, she want to goof around, joke around, like she want to do like experiments, like she want to do like write a book or something. Like, I'm not here for your book, I'm here for therapy. You feel me? Like, so I thought that was a red flag, but I continued. Then we had to do the same session again on the second session, because allegedly she lost her paperwork or something like that. So I'm like, all right, you wasting another session because you're having to do this stupid intake thing again with me. Like, y'all know what, like, intake, they usually do an intake before you get to your therapist, but when you get to your therapist, you also do another chit chat or whatever, so they can understand and build what's that called when somebody builds like a journey for you, like a progress report, something. I don't know, I'm losing my train of thought. Well, not thought, but you know what I'm saying. So whatever, so we basically talking or whatever the case may be, and it was going okay. Like the first couple of sessions, look at me, I look stressed. It was going okay the first couple of sessions, not even, but then she disclosed to me that she lost her mother. And y'all know I was going to therapy. I was basically going through grief counseling in the beginning. That's because that's why I went back to therapy. It was basically for grief. And then she told me she lost her mother 3 years ago. My thing is like, I should know a lot about you, respectfully. Like, you get what I'm saying? And it was getting weird. Like, I felt like I couldn't bring up my mother in my therapy sessions. I felt like she really didn't cope with her own grief. And mind you, let me tell y'all something, how important that is. I'm a person, I don't even know how to process grief. Like, I bring that up in therapy. I don't know how to process grief. I barely understand grief. I barely know what the fuck is going on. Like, I'm so pissed that, you know, I'm so hurt that I have to deal with grief because I don't really understand it. So if I'm a person who don't really understand grief and I can see that you're grieving, that's a problem. That's a big red flag. So think about that. I don't know how to process grief, but while I'm looking at you, I could tell that you are, because we're talking on Zoom or we're talking, I could tell that you haven't processed the grief of the loss of your mother. That's a big problem. You be dealing with that because, bitch, I'm grieving. And now you grieving. Now we both on here grieving. And I'm paying you. Well, I ain't paying out of pocket because, you know, I had the health insurance, whatever. But still, like, if I'm giving you, you know, if I'm trying to grieve or whatever the case may be, and, you know, you just draining my health insurance, talking about your mom lost. She was saying, oh, you see this chain that I wear? This chain is my mother's chain. For me, personally, I don't know. I do not know how y'all guys do therapy. I don't know how you ran into this episode, whatever. But for me, it was too freaking much. And then also thing too, and we'll talk about that with therapy, is that this may be weird. Every week she wanted to talk about the loss of my child, which I get. That's why I was in therapy. That's what brought me there. But it was like sometimes I wanted to talk about things that happened in the house and things that I was dealing with. And me and her was like around the same age. And I just felt like, let's say I want to talk about Femi. Femi is my husband or whatever. That's a big part of my life because I live with him or whatever the case may be at the end of the day. And it seemed like she just didn't want to talk about that. And I just feel like, all right, I already know what it is and what the fuck it ain't. Like when you in your 30s and maybe you're not in a relationship yet, maybe you're still girl, let me bring that up. She brought up too that yo, I literally knew too much about her. Like that's not therapy to me. I literally knew that after she lost her mother. I feel like I sound crazy on this podcast. I literally knew that after she lost her mother, she was dating somebody and then they had broke up. I shouldn't know all of that. Like that's not for me to know. That's not what I came here for, sis. Like I didn't come here for you to vent to me, bitch. I came here for me to vent to you. So I understand that, going back, that she probably was in her 30s, she's single, she don't want to hear about niggas. Because I used to be like that. Like, bitch, I don't want to hear about your man. But, like, this is my therapy session. So, whatever I want to talk about here, that's what I'm going to talk about. So, it was just giving weird vibes. And that's what I want to talk about when it comes to the cons of therapy. One of the cons of therapy to me is that, I wouldn't say it's a con, though. It can be. All right, let me just say it. That you kind of got to go in and talk about the things that's bothering you every week. And it sounds good, but that could low-key be bad. Because, remember, if you go to therapy once a week, for your whole week, you're not thinking about, for your whole week, you may or may not be thinking about the things that bother you in life. And then when you get to therapy, let's say you go to therapy every Friday, now you're having to bring up all these things that you really don't want to discuss or you really don't want to be bothered with because you was having a good fucking week. And that's what it was like for me in the beginning. Was like, I'm having a good week this week. You know what I'm saying? And now I gotta come and talk about therapy. I mean, talk about something traumatic. And it's like, I was having a good week. And maybe this week I don't want to talk about it. Or whatever. You know what I'm saying? But then she had told me, like, she was trying, because when I emailed her, like, I want to leave therapy, da-da-da-da. She was like, oh, we could do something where you come every 2 weeks. So they do have stuff like that where you could do therapy bi-weekly and not weekly. You can do stuff like that or whatever the case may be. So it's different options, different plans, different things you could do. But I definitely think that could be a con in some ways, because I remember I used to have a good week, and then I would have to go to therapy and kind of like talk about something I didn't want to talk about at the time. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm having a good week. Like, I would come in and talk about something different, and like she would always bring up the loss, and I'm just like, I don't want to talk about that shit today. And that's okay. Like, that's one of the things with therapy. Like, you don't have to talk about something you don't. I feel like you shouldn't have to talk about something you don't want to talk about today. You know what I'm saying? Like, and that's one of the cons with therapy, is that you're constantly going in there having to bring up trauma. Granted, the therapist didn't come there. The therapist kind of don't want you to come in here just talking about happiness and go gaga goo goo, because then at the end of the day it's like, what are you doing here? Like, I didn't come here for you to have a vent session to them. You know what I'm saying? So it is best that you know, I don't know, like, it's a weird, like, that's why I say it's a con. You know, it is a con. Healing in general is not easy. People make it seem like this pretty ass glamorous thing, and it's just like, and I think too with therapy, like people be like, I got a therapist, I got a life coach, I got this, and it's like that. If you really in there doing what the fuck you supposed to be doing, therapy is not glamorous. Period. Like, you're going in there, you're being vulnerable, you're being humble, you're being open, you're being transparent. Sometimes you're telling your therapist things that you have never told somebody in general, and then you got to say the shit out loud. So I understand why some people don't do therapy, why for some people it's so hard to go through therapy and just like talk about it, talk about certain things, and it could be draining and it can be exhausting. Like, for real, like I really felt drained and exhausted when I was in therapy for like 2 months, and then I eventually went back in January. I went back to therapy, but it can be exhausting. And that's when you gotta know when to leave, because that's the thing with therapy, is like sometimes it could be so long that you don't even know when is it time to leave. When have I healed? When do I feel better? When is this too much? Sometimes people think you gotta leave therapy when you feel you're at your best. You can leave therapy when you feel you're at too much. That happened to me my last prior time. Like, I felt like whatever my therapist was doing at that time, she was doing a good job. Like, but if she was doing too good of a job, like I was literally starting to feel things like wanting to come out of me. Does that make sense? Like, I remember in the beginning too, that's another thing some therapists do, is like they tell you like, this is my therapy, what's that called? Like, this is what I do. Like, I do conjugative, or I do it this way, or whatever. We go back from here and then we do this. Like, they explain to you how they do their type of therapy. And whatever she was doing, it was working. I was in therapy for like 2 years, and it was starting to creep up on me. Like, I felt like a lot of the things she was trying to get out of me was close to coming out. And so I started drinking a lot. You would think, see, and this is the things that's not discussed. You would think in therapy is the type of thing that would stop you from drinking, stop you from wanting to do drugs and stuff. I wasn't doing drugs, but I'm just giving examples. Stop you from wanting to do drugs, stop you from wanting to maybe, if you into that, cut yourself and stuff. For me, it was driving me to want to drink, because, and it wasn't unhelpful like with the other therapist. It was that we was talking, like we would go in there, we would talk, we had to talk about work, we talk about regular things, and then she would kind of ask me questions so discreetly about family and life and my upbringing, and I felt like I was trying to fight whatever was coming out, and I would drink a lot. Like, for real, like I don't think I understand, like it was getting bad, like oh my gosh, like it was crazy. So I had to like really get out of therapy, because I think I was maybe sometimes you could not be ready. Like, you may feel you're ready, but your body is not, or your mental is not physically ready to grasp on the emotions and the things that you're trying to feel. And I think that's what was happening. So I think that could be a con too, is that like, not a con, maybe I should use a different word for pros and cons, but that could be a thing where like you really not even ready to, I don't want to say you're not ready to heal, because you could want to go to therapy and be ready, but your body is just like, no, whatever's about to come out, you ain't gonna want to hear it. Like, I really felt like that was what was happening. Like, I was drinking a lot. Like, I would buy a bottle of rum and drink like 5 shots a night. That, like, I was on that type of time. Like, I was drinking, my guy. Like, all because of therapy. Isn't that insane? Because she was just like letting me talk about stuff that, and it wasn't in a bad way. She didn't do it so direct. She did it so discreetly, and it started like fucking with my head. Like, you know, you definitely have to be built for therapy. Like, it's not talked about. Therapy is not glamorous. Do I feel like what she did was helpful? Yeah, I do. I feel like her therapy session was very helpful. It was, she was so perfect. She just don't take my health insurance. Like, she was able to incorporate everything in my life into those sessions. Like, I thank her so much. Like, she was able to incorporate so many things into my session and do it so professionally and so properly and just so so yeah, shout outs to her. That was when I was 23. You know, I don't know if she watched, I don't know, whatever. I don't want to say her name because I don't know if that's what they want. And then the last therapist that I had, like I said, she was young, she was still grieving, and that's fine. You know, even though we have jobs and things, we deal with our own issues. I'm sure therapists deal with their own issues and their own problems, and sometimes it's not easy to grasp being a therapist. The other thing was, then after I got away from the therapist that was still grieving, I got a new therapist finally. She was really good too. Oh my God. Guess what though? She had to leave because she got a new job. So I lost her. She got a new job working at another hospital. I was so upset. She was really good. She talked in such a way. She was giving me the same energy as my last therapist. But yeah, a lot of people don't talk about the struggle of finding a therapist and being black. And wanting a female black therapist. I could imagine wanting a black male therapist, because I actually was going to get a therapist for Femi because we wanted to like do the therapy thing. And I barely could find a black male therapist. So a lot of, if you're a woman, a black woman, if you're a black man, you should definitely stick to being a therapist, doing the work. If you're a black man, maybe you should start building programs and things, just advocating other black men to get into therapy. Like, build those programs for people, because it's needed. It's not easy, but it's needed. It's really, really needed. Yeah, those are like my pros and cons. Just like looking for one in 2021 is like finding a needle in a haystack. You get waitlisted. You could be waitlisted for up to 2 to 3 months. I'm like, bitch, y'all not finna find me a therapist today. I could go lose my fucking mind today if y'all don't put me in a session by freaking next week. Like, what the fuck? Like, I'm just like, y'all really gonna waitlist me? Like, but if once I told them my story, sometimes they would try to push me up, you know what I'm saying? But I'm just saying, like, damn, even what if I didn't have a story? The first time I went to therapy at an older age, I didn't have a story. I just felt like I needed it. That was just it. It was just that. Like, it was no realm or reason behind it. So it just sucks. Like, you don't know what people's headspace is and things like that. So yeah, you know, with therapy, it's not easy. A lot of people gas therapy up a lot. Like, it's this cute thing to have. It's something that everybody should have. And sometimes you may not need therapy at the time. That's another thing that needs to be discussed. Like, sometimes you may have hills. You may be too young for therapy. Maybe you don't even know a lot of the things in your life that you haven't processed yet. Just know when it's time to go. Don't go because social media is telling you to go to therapy, even though they say, I feel like everybody could use a therapist. Don't go forcing yourself to do something you're not ready to do, because you're gonna force yourself to do something you're not ready to do, and you're gonna experience emotions that you won't even understand. So yeah, but yeah, it's crazy out here. It's crazy out here. I'm hoping if you need a therapist, you will find one. Just like I said, we talked about DMX. You know, he was battling a lot of demons. Don't battle these demons on your own. You gotta battle it with God and a therapist. Don't sit up and battle these demons alone, people. Like, drugs, alcohol, all that stuff is not gonna fix your problems. Those are very temporary fixes. Not only are they temporary, they're super temporary. Like, you'll be drunk for hours, you'll wake up, you're sober. You can get high. You're only high for a certain amount of hours. Like, please don't use, like, I never forget somebody told me, you know, I said this last week. Look, you could drink, but you're still gonna have your problems after you sober up. Like, you just gotta battle your problems full force head on. Like, that's all you can really do. So yeah, if you feel you need help, you need somebody to talk to, definitely do that. You know? Yeah, I don't know. I hope this episode was good. It wasn't giving long. It was giving, yes, straight to the point, honey. Prayers to DMX. If you need a therapist, I hope you find one. If you black and you're in medical school right now to be a psychiatrist, please finish your degree. Anything you're doing to become a licensed therapist, social, whatever, and you're black, please continue to do it. We need you. Stick it out. Stick it through. please, like, it's crazy out here. So yes, I would like to thank you guys for everything. Yeah, follow me on Instagram _Brittagram. Follow me on Twitter, Britt says with 2 S's. Subscribe, share the link if you thought it was funny, tell somebody else, and yeah, I will see you guys when next week. Bye.